I know. The newest Pixel 9 Pro Fold is out now and has everyone super excited. But as someone that used the first gen Pixel Fold for almost 9 months out of the year, I feel it deserves a bit of retrospective. Simply put, I loved my time with the Pixel Fold 1 and would have not felt complete if I didn't talk about it at least a little. So real quick, let's take a look back at Google's first ever foldable device, lightly touch on how the 9 Pro Fold improves on it, and discuss whether the first gen was ultimately a success in the world of foldables. No doubt, the display and form factor was the biggest differentiator of the first gen Pixel Fold. At the time, there weren't any real book-style foldables in the US market, and on top of that, Google seemed to be playing a completely different kind of game here as they released the Pixel Tablet and the Pixel Fold at the same time. The concept was pretty smart, at least to me. Launch 2 devices with similar aspect ratios, push app developers to make adjustments for the larger screen, and effectively, if you developed an app for their foldable, it would work perfectly on the Pixel Tablet. Google clearly agreed as they overhauled their entire app suite for large screens. Apps like Gboard, Google Docs, Gmail, Google Maps, Google Keep, the Play Store, and many more. Most of these apps had bigger canvases, 2-column layouts, sidebars, and again, worked perfectly between the Pixel Tablet and Pixel Fold. There were many more benefits to the widescreen landscape form factor on the Pixel Fold 1 as well. The wider aspect ratio is closer to traditional widescreen formats, making it ideal for content consumption. The split screen multitasking experience was awesome as you had 2 perfectly sized phone apps, and tabletop mode also had that same benefit of a full viewing experience. Plus, it had a distinctive feel like you were actually holding a portable tablet. I think the issue was, though, the wide landscape style form factor was going against the industry trends, and over time we could definitely see why. Typing on the wider keyboard didn't seem as comfortable as it was on the more traditional square form factors. Portrait mode on the inner screen was very awkward to use, at least in my opinion, and third-party apps weren't fully optimized for the wider aspect ratio, which wasn't as bad on the squarish type displays. These reasons are 100% why I think Google changed things with the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, and while I will miss the passport style layout, I think it was a right move to get away from it. Beyond the display form factor, there were some aspects of the design as a whole that really haven't aged quite well. The crease, for example, on the inner display is a major eyesore, to say the least. I found it to be super reflective regardless of being indoors or outdoors. The crease is pretty wide and creates a deep indent in the middle of the screen. To be fair, I'm usually not interacting with that part of the screen anyways, but it was something to note. In regards to the hinge, I have to say the inability to open completely flat and snap into place has really started to work against the premium nature of the device, and it just feels unfinished and not very satisfying compared to smartphones that make it part of the experience since you use that updated mechanism multiple times a day, every day. The weight is another issue that I found with the Pixel Fold over the past year. I should have expected it at almost 283 grams, almost double a traditional smartphone, but regardless, it is pretty unwieldy, especially if you have an active lifestyle. Fitting this in a shorts pocket while going for a run is completely out of the question as it feels very uncomfortable, and even if you are using a case, slim ones at that, it still adds to making the device feel very brick-like in the hand. Finally, my last critique with the build has to be the inner plastic bezels. Simply put, they are massive, which didn't really bother me that much, but the glossy finish has accrued a ton of damage over time. 1 year later, mine is scratched, cracked, and speckled with blemishes, and with no real bumpers of any kind, I find there's no way to mitigate this damage, something I will be keeping an eye out for in the Pixel 9 Pro Fold as time goes on. Let me be clear, guys, I'm not bringing out these points to try and make the Pixel Fold 1 seem like it has bad hardware or anything like that. In fact, to me, if Google had addressed these issues in the same form factor for a second generation, I probably would be equally as intrigued as I am with the Pixel 9 Pro Fold's design. Regardless, I do understand why they decided to go for a complete 180, and unfortunately, rest in peace, the passport design. Another interesting angle I wanted to talk about was the concept of Google releasing the Pixel Fold with the Tensor G2 when Tensor G3 hardware was less than 4 months away. Simply put, at the $1,800 price point, it was a pretty hard pill to swallow with a ton of side effects that didn't make me regret my purchase, but it did highlight big areas where future foldables from Google needed to improve. smooth. Performance was and still is great for general everyday tasks like social media, content consumption, light gaming even, and the general OS was pretty smooth, so I was more than happy there. On the other hand, many aspects struggled, like battery life, lack of AI features, which we will definitely get into, cellular performance was rough, in my opinion, and thermals especially. When the summer months rolled around, this phone was constantly warm, doing anything basic on data, and would get uncomfortably hot using GPS for extended periods of time. And adding to that final sting, it was already a dated chip at launch, as I alluded to earlier. The Pixel Fold 1 released on June 28th, and less than 4 months later, the Pixel 8 with the Tensor G2 was released with faster machine learning, better power efficiency, and more on-device AI, at least in the case of the Pixel 8 Pro. All changes that the Pixel Fold 1 would have greatly benefited from. The Pixel Fold software was something I was most excited for, and to me was its biggest selling point initially. Pixel UI seemed like the perfect platform for them to explore what is possible for the Pixel experience on foldables. Unfortunately, I personally feel like they didn't capitalize on it as much as I would have hoped. Yes, their core Google apps were optimized for the large screen form factor. They did add a forced full screen mode, which helped a ton in day-to-day apps, plus some smaller additions. Android 15 will introduce some new features as well, like app pairs and options to keep the taskbar always visible. But as a whole, I was really wishing Google went all out and tried a ton of things to level up the experience. OnePlus took a big risk with their open canvas software that clearly paid off amongst their user base. Samsung has an extensive feature set plus S Pen support, which puts it in a class of its own, by the way, and something in me says Google needed that standout aspect of their own aside from the AI features. Speaking of AI, for the $1,800 price tag, I was really expecting the Pixel Fold 1 to have more features backported from the newer devices. 1 year later, we still don't have generative AI wallpapers, we don't have the Google Assistant summarize feature for web pages, no summarization for the Pixel Recorder, no best take, and many more. No, technically, Google didn't explicitly promise those features, and to be fair, we did get Magic Editor updates, and Circle to Search was brought over a few months afterwards. Otherwise, there was nothing major to help justify that price tag in post-launch support. Compared to Samsung with the Z Fold series, they were able to backport a large majority of new AI features to prior models in the One UI 6.1 update, something that Google should have been able to do as well, in my opinion. Finally, to round out this review, respective, analysis, if you will, let's talk about the camera system and then we'll get out of here. To keep it short and sweet, the first gen Pixel Fold certainly holds its own, and it seems Google thinks so too, since they effectively use the same sensors and setup for the 9 Pro Fold. While it might not be the best compared to a traditional candy bar style flagship device, especially in low light or high zoom scenarios, it does provide a reliable fire and forget experience for everyday use. Its strong suits are in Google's computational photography, where it can deliver some quality photos without much need for adjustment, and compared to other major US foldables like the Z Fold series for example, it can capture moving subjects without much blur, if at all. As a whole, and massively oversimplifying here, I have never had a situation where I've missed the shot I was going for with the Pixel Fold. It's pretty reliable, unlike the Z Fold 5 and 6 that I've used over the past few months, where I found myself retaking photos quite often, to be honest. Ultimately, if top-tier camera performance is your concern, neither foldables are for you, and you should consider a flagship candy bar style device instead. However, for everyday photography needs, the Pixel Fold 1 is more than capable. All of this brings me to the big question I asked at the start: was the Pixel Fold successful, or at least a successful stepping stone in the Pixel lineup? I know this retrospective may have seemed overall negative, but I truly do think the Pixel Fold served its purpose as that testing ground for Google, and I give Google props as, according to a leaked prototype, they may have been planning a first-gen release alongside the 6 series, but did not release it to make improvements. Then launched this Pixel Fold 7 months after the 7 series, so clearly there was some delays to get the experience as complete as possible. All I can say is I loved my time with the first gen Pixel Fold despite the nitpicks I brought up, and no doubt the Pixel 9 Pro Fold improved on its predecessor in every way, while also showing Google's commitment to improving the category. That said, leave a comment and let me know your thoughts on the Pixel Fold versus 9 Pro Fold and how things have stacked up so far. Myself and the Android community would love to hear your thoughts, as some of us are planning an upgrade or are considering keeping our current devices. In the meantime, I'm getting out of here, but before I do, huge shout out to our channel members on screen right now. Thank you so much for supporting our channel over the months, and trust me, we have a ton more Pixel content on the way. For now, this has been Jordan Floyd with 9to5 Google. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.